Good morning, Collinsville. My name is Jameson Coker, and I'm reporting for the CPN News Studio. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing DeKalb County Sheriff Nick Welden. Thank you, Sheriff Welden, for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Anything we can do to get word out to our youth and come together as one, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Today, we have a few questions that were submitted by Collinsville students. The first one. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to pursue a career in law enforcement?
This is my 25th year of law enforcement, actually, and I've been blessed. 25 years. I've loved this job. I've been passionate for it. Since I was a child, I had two goals in life from the start of school. One was to be a game warden, and the other was to be the sheriff one day. And the Lord has allowed me to do both of those. But ever since a young boy, I wanted to be a sheriff.
That's awesome.
And I've been blessed.
For the benefit of our government students, will you explain the steps it took for you to qualify and run the campaign as well as win in a local election?
Yes, it's very tough to run an election. First of all, it's strenuous on your life, your family, and your finances. It's very expensive to run a campaign, and you have to get out and raise money, of course, and then use a lot of your own. It's tough to have to pay to get a job. That's kind of like this is, but the process of it is you have to qualify through a local party that you want to run under. And I ran under the Republican Party, and you go through a qualifying committee to make sure you're eligible to run as a Republican. Then it starts the process of the campaigning, the going to 7 or 8 events on Saturday to door to door through the week and 3 or 4 at night, and basically seeing very little of your family and very little of your friends, and it puts an extreme strain on you. Definitely anyone that runs a campaign for candidacy for anything, it definitely has to work for it, and the process is lengthy and it's tough and it's strenuous.
It's a lot of sacrifices.
A lot of sacrifice, yes sir, a lot of sacrifice.
The FBI director recently talked about partnerships with sheriffs and local officers to combat terrorism, gangs, violent crime, juvenile crime, border security, and election security. How does this directly affect our communities in DeKalb County?
You're right by that question. It definitely directly affects our entire state and this county as well. The election part of it, I went through more election training in the last year or so than we ever have in history to secure elections and to put people in place to oversee them. And as far as working with the FBI, we actually started that kind of on our own a few years ago and linked with them, where we have for example, drug task force agents. We have them on the FBI task force. We have investigators on the FBI criminal task force, as well as the state drug task force. Basically, the reason the consolidation is you have drugs is like a spider web in our country. They go to one place and they designate out to others. So if you have a federal hand in it, as far as the prosecution of it goes, a lot more lengthy of keeping people in jail and in prison that are poisoning our communities. So it's definitely a combative method provided by all of us.
What do you recommend to be done to ensure school safety in this turbulent world?
Turbulent, that's great, turbulent. We are fortunate here in DeKalb County. We are really only one of 3 that has a SRO in every single school. And I think that is the major plus, is we put security law enforcement in the school because you build a bond with the students in the school, and as long as with the teachers. Therefore, if information comes in that could be damaging to the school or hurtful or violent to the school, you're more out to have a leadway of communication with students and teachers to the SRO to then go further to take criminal action against someone to protect the school. And I think also the visibility of knowing there's SROs in schools and there's that kind of reaction between each other, it deters a lot of criminal activity in our schools.
What are laws for livestock in Alabama? What recourse is there for a landowner experiencing a neighbor's livestock or chickens continually grazing on their land without permission?
Very interesting question. But the way the law is written is you have the right to protect your person and your property. And in those cases, we do have some of those cases that we have worked in the past. And actually, the Department of Agriculture with the state has their own group that works livestock laws. We will go out and take a report, and if it seems to be a repeated offense, we contact the state agriculture department, turn the case over to them for any kind of prosecution or any kind of removal of the animal or any kind of fine there is. That's something we have to work with the state on because it's a state law.
What is your guiding principle that helps you make decisions in your role as sheriff?
Oh man, that's the easiest question I've ever been asked, and that's God Almighty. There's not a day goes by I don't pray about the office and about the community and situations and decisions we're going to have to make. Every single day I just ask to make the right decision and to honor and glorify the Lord, and that goes all the way back to campaigning. I prayed the entire time if I was meant to be here, the Lord would put me here, and I pray every single day that decisions that I'll be brought upon or brought to my desk that I've prayed enough about that I have confidence in the Lord is going to guide me 100%.
That's great to hear. How would you stress to young people the importance of making wise decisions every day, financially, in-person interactions, with their own bodies, and with social media?
Social media is one of the largest growing crime organizations there's ever been. Simply because you can access anything social media, the dark web or any of that is accessible, and basically what you're doing is participating in crime. So the way you access that and venture into it, as far as things just as like sexting that we talk a lot about in schools, becomes a crime. And once you've committed that crime and once you're convicted of that crime, it sticks with you for the rest of your life. If you commit a felony crime, it sticks with you your entire life. If you become a sex offender, your entire life. Every time you go get a driver's license, or you have to register every single month to keep a file on you, and basically you have to ask yourself, the question is the crime that you're about to commit, is it gonna be worth living with the rest of your life, and how it's going to affect the decisions made in your life or decisions people make of you in your life. So I would definitely say each choice you make, you have to own it. And we see a lot of cases and a lot of young folks in schools that have made a mistake, but it has become a choice also, and it's become a crime. And we know good people. I have family members like everyone that's been affected from drugs or from other kind of crimes. And for the rest of their life, it haunts them as far as getting a job, as far as maybe going into a college education. They're going to be turned away at certain points because of what they've done. So basically, the decisions you make now will affect you your entire life if they're not the right decisions.
What advice would you provide to students about proper ways to interact with law enforcement officers when necessary?
Yep. Well, I think it's just like you and I sitting here talking. We've never met before, but in just a few minutes we're getting along and we're talking. That's simply the same way law enforcement is we're just like anyone else. We just continually see the bad stuff every single day. So the first impression you make with a law enforcement is always a lasting impression. You know, if you pull someone over and they roll down the window and scream, "Why'd you stop me?" Well, they're automatically in defensive mode, and so the law enforcement has to go into the next step into the defensive mode to make sure the situation doesn't escalate. So it's just like meeting a friend or meeting someone for the first time. It's no different in law enforcement. The first interaction you have with them is the lasting interaction they recall. So I would just advise everyone, we're human just like you are, and we're going to be human just like you are. The situation starts out by the first conversation.
What advice would you give to students who aspire in a career in law enforcement?
It's a tough career. It's a very tough career. You see the worst of the worst things you could ever imagine that you would ever see, and it's strenuous on your family. And people ask that question a lot, and we talk about it as, what do you have to do to get into law enforcement? Or I'd really like to get into law enforcement. First of all, you have to be of a human nature to sacrifice. To sacrifice times away from your family, to sacrifice those Saturdays and Friday nights when people are having get-togethers that you can't be at, or you make a lot of sacrifices for this job. And you may think that I'm being negative to that question, but I tell you that because even though you make those sacrifices, and as hard as this job can be, it can be the most rewarding job you'll ever see in your life. One person, you change their life by an action that was taken. You can't put a price on that. So you have to live with it in your heart. This is a job I want. This is the job that the Lord has called me for, because I can make a difference. I can make a difference in ways that maybe I don't put on paper or someone doesn't see, but someone's going to feel it in their heart. And that's what's kept me going for 25 years, is knowing that every time I turn a corner, it may be someone that we have a conversation or deal with that changes the rest of their life for the better. It could be, someone in a school. It could be you. It could be any conversation that'll keep someone going in the right direction. And so I think that law enforcement is not necessarily just a job. I think it is a calling, and I think the good Lord has to have His hand in it for it to be the right. And that's what I would say is, if this is a career you're thinking about or a career you're wanting, pray hard about it, because you got to have the good Lord with you in this career.
That's all we have for today. We want to thank Sheriff Welden for joining us today and answering our questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Collinsville Panther Network to keep up with our latest posts. Thank you.